Have you ever, like, paused mid-game of chess, holding that queen or maybe the bishop, and just wondered, what's the real story behind these pieces?
hmm
What if the journey of chess, and maybe, tons of other strategy board games, is way older, more global, and honestly more surprising than we even think?
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
What looks like just a simple game, way to pass the time, is actually this deep echo. It reflects human ingenuity, cultural mixing, and the kind of strategic thinking that shaped whole civilizations
Yeah.
for millennia.
Exactly. So today on the deep dive, that's our mission. We want to take you on this incredible journey across continents, back through time.
Yeah.
We're going to try and unearth these hidden histories, look into the, well, often disputed origin,
Definitely disputed.
and really get into the deep cultural significance of games like Chinese chess, Shanki, or the really old Indian chaturanga, and, well, so many others.
And we'll be using the sources we've gathered, drawing insights directly from that material
Yeah.
to sort of guide you through the evidence.
Right, and by the end, you should have this much richer, kind of interconnected picture of these ancient pastimes.
Definitely. You'll pick up some fascinating facts, connections you maybe never thought of. And it'll likely shift how you see, what a game even is.
And why they've mattered so much throughout history.
Precisely.
Okay, let's lay the board then. Let's start with Shanki, Chinese chess. Even if you don't play it yourself, you've probably seen it. It's huge. One of the most popular board games in the world. Millions play it.
Yeah, what's amazing about Shanki is just how popular it is, but also how the core idea is pretty straightforward. It's like Western chess in that way.
Two armies.
Two armies, yeah. Trying to capture the other guy's general, their king, through checkmate or stalemate.
And red always goes first.
Red always starts, yeah. And both players have 16 pieces to begin with.
And the pieces themselves, they have these great names that really paint a picture of, like, ancient warfare.
Totally. You've got chariots, which are kind of like rooks. Horses, obviously like knights. Ministers are elephants. Advisors are guards.
And the general, the king piece.
Right, the general or shuai. And then the cannons, those are pretty unique. And the soldiers, or pawns.
But it's not just the pieces. The board itself is different, isn't it? It has those palaces, the gong, and that river running through the middle, the he.
Exactly. Those geographical features are key. Now, digging into its history, scholars like H.J.R. Murray, he points to some really old Chinese writings that mention Shanki.
How old are we talking?
Well, the term Shangqi itself shows up in records going back over 2,300 years, and some theories push it even further back, maybe 2,700 BCE.
Wow. So what are the earliest texts?
Okay, so one is Chu Qi by Qi Yuan. It's a collection of poems from the Chou dynasty, which is way back, like 1046 to 255 BC.
Okay.
But what's interesting is this early game, while it was called Shanki, it only had 4 pieces and no checkmate.
Huh. So not really chess as we'd recognize it.
Not at all. Then there's another text, Xuan, from the Han dynasty, so 206 BC to 221 CE, and it refers back to that earlier Chu Qi.
Okay, and this brings up the name itself, Zhenki. You said it means elephant game.
Literally, yeah, elephant game. And that's in contrast to the Go game, which meant surround game. Now, there has been a bit of scholarly debate. Does Yanqi really mean elephant game, or maybe figure game, or even constellation game?
Constellation game, that's interesting.
It is, but the general thinking, the consensus, really leans towards Xiang, meaning elephant, and Qi, meaning chess.
So the big question then, where did it actually come from? India? Or did it maybe grow out of an even older Chinese game? I read something about Lu Bo.
Right, Lu Bo.
Yeah.
That's the other possibility. It's dated to about 3,500 years ago.
Wow.
And it does show some similarities to Yankee. They found ivory pieces. The elephant was part of its military setup. Some historians just assume Lubachi and Shanki were basically the same thing back then.
But it's important to distinguish Lu Bo from the chess that came from India, right?
Absolutely crucial distinction. That Indian form likely emerged during what's called the Huri domination around 455 to 543 CE, and we don't see it documented until about the 7th century. So different streams.
Okay. So as Shanki itself developed, do the records get clearer?
They do. There's a manual from 569 CE called Shanjing, and it connects the game to Emperor Wu Di of the Northern Zhou dynasty.
And the version played today?
That seems to have really solidified by the Song dynasty. That's 960 to 1279 CE. And by then, it wasn't just for elites. It was played by pretty much everyone, all levels of society.
But we have physical proof of this, like actual game sets.
Oh, yeah. The archaeology is fantastic here. The oldest excavated sets we have are from the Song and Yuan dynasties. You can go to the National Museum of China today and see 4 complete sets, 32 bronze pieces each. Northern Song period.
That's incredible.
Found in Jiangxi back in '81. There's also a porcelain set found in a Northern Song tomb in Henan. What this all tells us really clearly is that by the Song dynasty, Shanqi was everywhere. It wasn't just some niche hobby. It was like woven into the culture.
A cultural unifier, almost.
You could say that. And the Shaanxi Museum of History. They have another complete Northern Song set, too.
What about the board itself? When do we see those?
The earliest actual Shanqi chessboard we found dates from the Ming Dynasty, so 1368 to 1644.
So summing up Shanqi, in its current form, the evidence points pretty strongly to China.
Undeniably. Chinese literature, historical records, the archaeological finds. It all points to a Chinese origin for the game as we know it. And of course, China gave us other great games too. Mahjong, Weiqi, Chinese checkers, dominoes.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Right.
What about the connection back to India? Murray mentioned cultural exchange.
Right. Murray suggests that the game's evolution around 800 CE during the Tang Dynasty might have been influenced by things happening outside China.
Like Buddhism spreading from India.
Exactly. That was happening around the same time. So there was definite cultural interchange. But here's the key point Murray makes. He's not clear which way the influence went regarding the games themselves. Did Shanxi influence the Indian game Chaturanga, or was it the other way around?
He says there's not enough proof either way.
Basically, yeah. Insufficient proof to definitively say, which leads us right into the big tangle.
The contested root of chess itself and this Indian precursor, Chaturanga.
It's so tricky, pinpointing the absolute origin of chess. It's a huge challenge, mainly because we just don't have solid evidence of its modern form before the 6th century CE.
But people find game pieces all over the place, right? Asia, Eurasia.
They do. Russia, China, Central Asia, Pakistan, India, you name it. But often, these older pieces, they're from related but different board games. Sometimes they use dice, the boards were bigger.
So connecting the dots directly to modern chess is hard.
Very hard. It's more like a tangled web than a straight line.
Okay, so let's talk about Chaturanga, the Indian war game. Where does it first appear?
It gets mentioned in some really ancient Indian scriptures, the Rig Veda, for instance, and in the big epic poems, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, other scriptures too.
And the name Chaturanga.
It's Sanskrit, means having 4 limbs. It refers to a traditional battle formation, infantry, cavalry, elephants, chariots. And the number 4 itself is super significant in Hindu tradition.
What was the game itself like?
Well, it's often described as kind of a hybrid. It had elements we'd recognize from international chess today, but also some similarities to Shanqi.
And Murray's theory connects it all.
Yeah, Murray believed Chaturanga was incredibly old and very likely the root, the common ancestor for both Western chess and Shanqi, and maybe even other East Asian games like shogi in Japan and jangi in Korea.
He called it the elder of games.
He did. He said it shines through the 7th century CE as the elder of games that share those core features with modern chess. Now, exactly how it evolved is still debated, but Shatrang's the game played later in northern India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Central Asia, that seems to be a direct descendant or variation.
What about the stories? I read the Ramayana has a tale about chess being invented.
That's right. The Ramayana, which comes down to us through oral tradition from maybe 750 to 500 BCE, it tells the story of Ravana, the king of Lanka, modern Sri Lanka, inventing the game.
For his wife?
For his wife, Mandodari. And the kicker is, she supposedly beat him at it.
Huh. Okay, what other texts mention these games?
Well, other scriptures mention dice games that could be precursors. The Hindu text Bhavishya Purana, for example, and the Law of Manu actually has verses warning against playing with dice.
Interesting.
And then the Harivamsa and the Mahabharata, in the form we have them from around 500 CE, they talk about dice play. Most scholars think this probably refers to Chaturanga, or maybe a related game called Chaturangi.
Isn't there a famous story in the Mahabharata about losing a kingdom over a game?
Yes, the story of King Yudhishthira and also King Nala losing everything, their entire kingdoms, because of this game. It shows how high the stakes could be culturally.
Now, dating these epics, like the Mahabharata, that's complicated, right?
Very. Traditionally, it's attributed to the sage Vyasa. Scholars generally estimate it was compiled over centuries, maybe between the 3rd century BC and the 3rd century CE. Completed around 400 CE during the Gupta dynasty.
But there are disagreements.
Big time, especially when you compare Western historical dating with Indian tradition. Alain Danielou, for example, in his Histoire de l'Inde, he points this out. Western historians often date the events in the epic much earlier, maybe 1500 on 1000 BCE. But Danielou gives more weight to the Indian oral tradition, which claims closer to 3000 BCE.
Why such a difference?
He argues it fits better with what we know about conditions in India around the time of the Buddha, who was born about 624 BCE. It just highlights how difficult it is to be precise with these ancient timelines.
Okay, let's pull back for a wider view. We're talking about ancient India. What else was going on back then? The Indus Valley Civilization.
Exactly, thriving from maybe 7000 BCE down to 650 BCE. And they weren't isolated. They were trading heavily with Egypt, with
What
Mesopotamia,
kind of trade?
things like lapis lazuli. It was coming from what's now Afghanistan as early as 3500 BCE, reaching the Indus Valley by 3000 BCE. And think about the ancient port city of Lothal in India, built around 2400 BCE, major hub.
And around that same time frame, 3000 BCE, you also have figures like Fo Hai or Fu Xi in China, the legendary first emperor.
Right, the supposed founder of science. So you see this incredible convergence of ancient cultures, massive trade networks. It makes the idea of games spreading across these vast distances seem totally plausible.
It really sets the stage. Okay, so if we're looking for ancient origins, where else should we look besides India and China? Egypt.
Egypt is a definite contender. Some archaeologists think board games might have appeared there as far back as 9000 BC.
9,000.
Yeah, really ancient. And the oldest known board game we have solid evidence for is Senet. Dates to around 3000 BCE, maybe even earlier.
And some researchers think Senet could be linked to chess.
Some have explored that idea, yeah.
Yeah.
Joseph Pranay Ballet, Sergio Negri, they looked into an Egyptian origin via Senet.
But what's the verdict?
Well, Negri offers a more nuanced view. He says Senet itself isn't directly linked to chess. The game mechanics are quite different. But he sees it as potentially the initial space, like the starting point in a very long evolutionary chain of strategy games.
Okay. And Senet was popular.
Hugely popular. It spread like wildfire through trade to neighboring cultures, Arad, Byblos, Cyprus. Then it traveled further to Greece and Rome, and eventually, maybe via Alexander the Great's campaigns around 327 BCE, it reached India and Persia too.
So its influence could have been really widespread.
Absolutely. Senet and maybe another Egyptian game called Sego, which is often seen as more comparable to chess, they almost certainly influenced the Greek game Patea.
And the Roman version.
Ludus Latrunculorum. That was the Roman take on Patea. The name means things like game of brigands or game of soldiers. And just like chess, it was the two-player military strategy game. We see it mentioned all over classical literature: Homer, Aristotle, Plato, Ovid.
Okay, Egypt covered. What about Mesopotamia?
Ah, yes. The royal game of also called the game of 20 squares. This one goes back to the early 3rd millennium BCE and was played right through late antiquity. And it wasn't just for royalty. Everyone played it.
What kind of a game was it?
It was fundamentally a race game, played on this distinctive 20-square board.
And it spread far, too.
Incredibly far. They found boards in Persia, Syria, Egypt, Lebanon, Cyprus, Crete, even Sri Lanka. It clearly shows this pattern of transmission of cultures sharing and contributing to the game's evolution.
Weren't some boards found in Tutankhamun's tomb?
Yes, 4 Ur-like game boards. Often they were made on the flip side of Senet boards. They came complete with dice and playing pieces, and there's even a version scratched into the floor of Sargon II's palace in Assyria, a bit of ancient graffiti.
Where's the original set now? The one from Ur itself?
That famous one, dug up by Sir Charles Leonard Woolley in the 1920s. It's in the British Museum now, a real treasure.
And didn't they figure out the rules recently?
They did. A discovery in Turkey in 2013 was key. They found 49 amazing little animal-shaped stone pieces, dice, tokens, but no board. Still, it was enough for researchers to finally figure out the rules. And now, with over 100 boards salvaged over the years, we have a pretty good idea how it was played.
How did it evolve and spread?
It seems to have changed gradually over about 1,200 years. It went from Mesopotamia to the Levant around 1800 BCE, then Egypt maybe 200 years later, then Cyprus, Nubia.
Any modern descendants?
Backgammon seems to be an offspring, yeah. And fascinatingly, a version called Asha was still being played by the Jewish community in Kochi, India, right up until they moved to Israel in the 1950s, a living link to this ancient past.
Incredible. One more ancient site, Crete, the Knossos game.
Right, the Knossos game, dated to about 1600 BCE. Some think it might be a parent of the royal game of Ur.
Who found it?
Sir Arthur John Evans, the guy who excavated the Knossos Palace back around 1899-1901. It's thought to have been played by Minoan royalty. And some obscure ancient texts, Akkadian and Egyptian, describe it as like a simpler version of the game of Var.
Okay, so we've seen games popping up all over the ancient world. How did they really start to spread and merge into something like chess? Persia seems key here.
Persia is absolutely crucial, a vital bridge. Think about the Shahnameh, that huge epic Persian poem finished around 1010. It talks about Persian history, and it mentions chess.
Is that the earliest Persian mention?
Not quite the earliest specific one. There's a short treatise in Pahlavi, the Old Persian language. It dates from before 897 CE, sometime after the Muslim conquest.
What does it say?
It describes an Indian king, Duarsarm, sending chess called Chaturanga, but translated as Shatranj in Persian to the Persian king Khosrow I, who reigned 531-579 CE.
With fancy pieces.
Yeah, 16 emerald pieces and 16 ruby pieces. And in return, Khosrow sent back the game of Nard, which is related to backgammon.
Did it describe the pieces?
It lists the king, minister, horse, foot soldiers, but interestingly, no mention of the elephant or chariot, which were in the Indian game. This text was likely a source for the later Shahnameh.
So how did chess actually get to Persia?
Well, there was tons of maritime trade between India and the Sassanid Empire and Persia. It seems a two-player version of chess was brought over by Indian merchants around the mid-6th century CE.
And the language connection is strong too, right? Checkmate.
Absolutely.
Right.
And checkmate comes straight from Persian. Shah means king. Mat means, well, basically defeated, without resources, maybe even dead. Shah. It's a direct linguistic footprint showing that crucial Persian link.
So Persia is the bridge.
Yeah.
What about the Silk Road? That must have played a huge role in spreading it further.
Undeniably. The Silk Road was a massive conduit. So chess, or chaturanga, travels from India across Asia, even reaching Siberia into Afghanistan and then Persia.
And from Persia.
From Persia, it heads into Arabia around the 7th century. That's where it becomes known as Shatranj.
Okay.
By the end of the 8th century, it's reached China. By the 11th, Japan and Korea.
And westward.
Westward, starting in the 9th century, Arab traders and conquerors bring Shatranj to North Africa, to Byzantium, what's now Turkey, and then, crucially, into Europe.
Where in Europe first?
Spain, Sicily, southern Italy, the Iberian Peninsula mainly. And the name changes again as it spreads. Shatranj becomes ajedrez in Spanish, atzrazres in Portuguese, zatrikio in Greek.
So it's really on the move now. Africa, Europe.
Exactly. In Ethiopia, for instance, the Arab form Shatranj was adopted and called Centaure. It became a game played by royalty and the nobility there.
What about written evidence in Europe?
The earliest manuscripts we have that mention chess are from around 997 CE. Two of them, found in a monastery in Einsiedeln, Switzerland. They include a Latin poem about chess, apparently written by a German monk.
And the Moorish influence in Spain was important.
Hugely important. You have the famous 13th century Kitab al-Lud, the Book of Games. It was put together by Muslim courtiers for King Alfonso X of Castile. It describes all sorts of games for the nobility, and chess features prominently.
Did the game change much as it spread through Europe?
Oh, definitely. By the end of the 12th century, you had tons of different variants popping up in France, Germany, Britain, Scandinavia.
Yeah.
People were experimenting with the rules.
And Spain had another big impact later, right? With the Queen.
Yes, a massive change. During Queen Isabella's reign in the 15th century, the rules are altered significantly, making the queen piece much, much more powerful. Basically, the way she moves in modern chess. That comes from 15th century Spain.
And the first chess theory book?
Also Spanish. Luis Ramirez de Lucena wrote it around that time, a really pivotal period for the game's development in Europe.
Okay, so that covers the westward spread. What about north and east, Russia and Central Asia? Did chess get there differently?
It seems so, yeah. Russia likely got chess first via eastern routes, and some of the terminology reflects that. The Russian word for chess is shakhmati, and checkmate is shakhmat, clearly from the Persian.
But it came from the west later, too.
Yes. In the 16th century, chess was sort of reintroduced to Russia, this time from Western Europe. And that brought the European rules, peace movements, and names. It's interesting, though.
What's that?
Well, despite maybe being a bit late to fully embrace the modern game, Russia went on to just dominate international chess for most of the 20th century.
Okay, back to Central Asia. You mentioned pieces found there.
Really significant finds. Pieces dating as early as a 150 CE found in Turkmenistan. They look very similar to Indian styles, suggesting they belong to the Kushan people, who had ties to India.
Even earlier.
Possibly. Finds in Delvarsan Tepe in South Uzbekistan, which was the Kushan capital, might date to 100 CE. More pieces from that region from the 2nd century, too.
What did they look like?
The designs often reflect the local Turkish culture of the time. You see symbols like balls, those are stone figures, tents, cupolas, horses. There's also the Seljuk chess set from the 11th century, which fits with other piece findings from the 9th and 10th centuries. It really cements the region's long history with the game.
What's the most important find from that area?
Probably the Afrasiab chessmen. 7 amazing little ivory pieces, dated roughly 707 and 60 CE.
Where were they found?
In Afrasiab, which is ancient Samarkand in Uzbekistan, discovered by an archaeologist named Yuri Fyodorovich Buryakov. They're generally considered the oldest complete chess set ever found.
Wow, where are they now?
They're in the Uzbekistan State Museum. Buryakov himself thought they represented a pretty primitive version of chess.
Did Burikov have theories about how chess spread from there?
He did. Very influential theories. He argued that cities like Samarkand, Bukhara, Khiva were major hubs for spreading chess along the Silk Road, following those old camel caravan routes.
And he thought modern chess actually developed there.
He contended that, yes, that it developed in ancient Uzbekistan and then merchants carried it both east towards Siberia and west as far as Egypt.
Did he think it reached Europe differently too, not just via the Arabs in Spain?
Yes, that was another interesting part of his theory. He believed Bulgarians migrating from the Volga region might have brought chess to Europe rather than the Arabs.
So arriving in Eastern Europe first.
Exactly. He thought it reached places like ancient Kiev-on-Rus from the Volga area. He even pointed to a 10th century text, Kormkiata, that uses the word shamati.
Is there evidence in Russia that supports this Volga route idea?
Well, chess sets have been found in Russia that look quite similar to those Afrasiab pieces from Uzbekistan. That lends some weight to the idea that chess might have arrived via the Volga trade routes, maybe through contact between the Volga Bulgars and early Russians.
And Mongolia. Any connections there?
There's the Shaturkulu monument, dating back to the Hun Gökturk era. It has Turkish inscriptions, including words like shatir, which seems clearly related to satranj, or shatranj, the Persian Arabic word for chess. Another hint of that Eastern spread.
So the Volga route was really important back then.
Absolutely vital in the Middle Ages. It was this major artery connecting northern Europe and northwest Russia all the way down to the Caspian Sea and the Sasanian Empire in Persia. It facilitated huge amounts of trade, not just with Muslim nations, but also with the Vikings.
So perfect for spreading games as well as goods.
Exactly. It was a conduit for everything: goods, ideas, culture, and games.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. India, China, Persia, Central Asia, Europe. What about other distinct game traditions, like the Celts? Did they have something similar?
They absolutely did. Games like Fitchel in Old Irish or Gwydwylwyl in Welsh, these were hugely popular ancient Celtic board games.
Were they like chess?
Not identical, no. The pieces moved differently, the setup wasn't the same, but crucially, they involved a king figure and 2 opposing armies trying to capture him. So strategically, there's a clear resonance.
What do the names mean?
Roughly wood sense. But eventually, the terms just started being used to refer to chess itself as it became known.
Are they related to Viking games?
Very likely. Fitchel and Gwydwylyn are probably the original Celtic versions of the game, known as Snefetaf, or simply Tefl, which the Vikings played all across Scandinavia and the British Isles.
How long were they played?
They were really popular right up until modern chess started taking over in the 12th century. But a variant called tablet actually survived in some remote areas until the 18th century.
Any connection to Roman games, like that Ludus game?
Possibly. Some scholars suggest a link between Fitchel and Ludus Lestranculorum. It shows how these strategic concepts might have circulated.
Were these games important in Celtic culture?
Incredibly important. Deeply woven into their folklore, their literature. Ancient texts mention board games all the time. Timothy Harding, a chess historian, even notes theories that chess might have had a native Irish origin developing from Fitchel.
Really?
Yeah, and another writer, Geoffrey Keating, argued that even if Fitchel wasn't exactly chess, the fact that the ancient Irish had such a sophisticated strategy game showed a high level of cultural achievement early on.
Are there legends about who played it?
Oh, fantastic legends. Fitchel was supposedly created by Luke, the god of light. The great hero Cuchulainn was a master player. Kings, gods, heroes, they all played it in the myths.
And in Welsh literature?
Gwydwyl is all over medieval Welsh tales. The Dream of Vernabwy has King Arthur playing it on a silver board with golden pieces. It appears in the Dream of Muxin Ledig, and Peredur, Son of a Frog, features a magical Gwydwyl board that plays by itself.
Magical chessboards.
Yeah. And you find similar motifs in French literature about the Holy Grail, too. A shared kind of magical game mythos.
Is there any physical evidence, like a fancy board?
There's the legendary board of Grendeleu Apsidio. It's listed as one of the 13 treasures of the island of Britain in later texts, dating maybe 15th, 16th century. Supposedly made with gold and crystal pieces on a gold board. Whether it actually existed, who knows? But it shows the reverence for the game.
And the Celts traded widely too, right? So ideas could spread.
Absolutely. For about 1000 BCE, right up to Roman times, the Celts had dynamic trade networks all across Europe and connected with the Mediterranean. They traded tin, silver, gold, ivory, but also ideas, technology, art styles, religious beliefs, perfect pathways for games to travel.
Okay, one more major region, the Americas. Were there ancient strategy games there before Columbus?
Yes, definitely. One of the oldest and best known is Ptolemy.
Cotoli, what was that like?
It was played on a cross-shaped board. It was kind of a mix, part war game, part race game. 2 players, and it involved both strategy and luck, often using beans or dice.
Was it just played in one place?
No, it was widespread. Various Native American groups played it. The Kiowa, Comanche, Cheyenne, Arapahoes played a version called Zonal. The Zunis, Apaches, Havasupais played versions called the Quints or Patal.
Where did it originate?
It's generally thought to be Aztec in origin. The name Patoli means kidney beans or fava, which they use as playing pieces, but variants were played much earlier by the Teotihuacanos, Toltecs, Mayans, Zapotecs, Mixtecs, maybe even going back to the Olmecs around 1200 BCE.
Was it just for fun?
Often, no. It was a serious gambling game. People would bet possessions, tools, blankets, sometimes even themselves or their families, into servitude on the outcome.
Wow. Now, I remember reading something controversial about Patoli, a connection to India.
Ah, yes. The pre-Columbian contact debate. Back in the late 19th century, anthropologists like Sir Edward Burnett Taylor and later Edward Adamson Hobel suggested Patoli might be related to the Indian game Pachisi.
Pachisi, like Partisi.
Exactly. That's the theory that maybe the idea crossed the ocean somehow before Columbus.
Is that widely accepted now?
No, not really. Most scholars today strongly refute it. They argue Patoli is a distinctively American invention developed independently. But the debate itself keeps alive the question of possible earlier contacts between the Old World and the New World.
Who argues for pre-Columbian contact?
People like Leo Wiener, Ivan van Sertima, they proposed various possibilities. Contact with ancient Egyptians, Malians, Moors from Africa, maybe Phoenicians, Celts, Hebrews, Chinese, even Norse Vikings. Dating these supposed contacts anywhere from 2000 BCE up to just before 1492. It's a fringe theory for most historians, but it's out there.
But Patoli itself is definitely documented historically.
Yeah, it's described in detail in the 16th century Florentine Codex, compiled by the Spanish friar Bernardo de Sahagún, a clear record of its existence and importance in Aztec culture.
Okay, so we've toured the globe, seen all these amazing games. Let's talk about the deeper meaning. You mentioned Sergio Negri earlier. He saw games as more than just games.
He really did. He talked about games operating on higher planes, metaphysical, philosophical, even religious.
What did he mean by that?
Well, he wrote beautifully that games are the nourishment of the mind, the solace of the spirit, the polisher of intelligence, the bright sun of understanding.
That's quite profound.
It is. It makes you ask, why do so many cultures pour so much meaning into their games? One common thread you see is symbolism. The board often represents the heavens, the universe. The squares become celestial houses. The pieces are like stars moving across the cosmos.
Bringing order to the chaos through play.
Kinda, yeah. Imposing a structure, finding patterns.
Can we see this in specific games? Like Shenki?
Absolutely. Shanki is seen as expressing really high cultural values in China. It's not just about winning or losing. It's meant to guide players towards philosophical insights, ethical considerations.
How so?
Negro points out, for instance, that the game suggests humility when you're in a position of power. And he says the pieces themselves represent celestial bodies, linking the game to the cosmos. It's seen as stimulating the intellect, encouraging self-development, adaptability.
There was a documentary reference to...
Right, the New Frontiers documentary, Go in Ancient Chinese Chess. It stated that these games, as they developed, have always represented an idea, an attitude, and a state of mind. It's deeply embedded.
What about other games? Nard.
The Persian game Nard, the ancestor of backgammon, its symbolism was very astrological. The board was the earth. The 30 pieces, 15 white, 15 black, represented the 30 days and nights of a month. Your fate in the game was tied to the planets and the zodiac.
And the royal game of did that have spiritual meaning?
Oh, profoundly spiritual. People genuinely believed that what happened in the game could affect their actual lives. The board was like a channel for messages from gods or maybe from ancestors or spirits.
Like fortune telling.
Almost, yeah. There's an ancient clay tablet belonging to someone named Idi Marduk Bilal that basically gives little predictions based on where a player landed a piece. Things like, you will find a friend, or you will become powerful like a lion, or even, you will draw a fine beer.
Huh. Practical fortunes, too.
Right. And even in North America, that game's on all we mentioned.
Yeah.
It was explicitly used for divination. The outcome of the game was used to predict the future.
It really shows this universal human drive, doesn't it? To find meaning, order, maybe even predict destiny through play itself.
It really does. It's quite remarkable how consistent that is across cultures and time.
So after this incredible journey, tracing these threads across millennia, across continents, where does it leave us with that core question? Chess as we know it today. Is it the result of this slow burn of multicultural mixing, each place adding its own flavor? Or can we point to one single, clear origin?
Well, I think what becomes really clear is just how complex it is. There's no easy, neat answer,
Yeah.
no single aha moment.
Right.
To really get it, you have to consider the chronology, yes, but also the unique contributions of all these different ancient nations.
Yeah.
You have to factor in the trade routes, how ideas spread both orally and through writing. You have to think about cooperation, conflict, how peoples blended through migration, conquest, diplomacy. All of it played a role.
It sounds like there are just so many ways these games could have traveled and changed.
Exactly. So many points of entry, so many pathways for transformation. Merchants slogging along trade routes, sailors crossing seas, armies larching, ideas migrating with people. A single clear-cut origin story becomes almost impossible to pin down definitively.
Maybe even undesirable, like the richness comes from that mixing.
That's a great way to put it. Maybe the real story isn't a straight line back to one source, but this incredible, vibrant tapestry, woven from countless different threads, with each culture adding its own unique color, its own pattern. The result is something far richer, far more complex than any single origin could ever be.
You know, we started this just thinking about chess, a familiar game, but digging into it, it's like opening a door onto this vast landscape of human history. What seems like just a pastime is actually this profound cultural artifact. Its history, its philosophy, its global connection, all packed into these little pieces on a board.
It really is a mirror, reflecting these deep, fundamental human drives.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought for everyone listening. If these strategy games are so deeply tangled up with human curiosity, with our ideas about conflict, about spirituality, about intelligence, and this is true across so many different civilizations, what does that tell us?
What does it reveal about our fundamental need as humans to create order, to build narratives, to find meaning, even when we're just playing a game?
Yeah. So maybe the next time you sit down to play chess or Go or backgammon or any board game, take a second look. Think about the incredible journey those rules, those pieces might represent. Ponder the countless hidden stories behind the squares. It's a profound human story waiting to be rediscovered.